Hello, lovely viewers, and Merry Christmas to you as well. And welcome to my second ever devlog. Now, my first one, I talked about my dialogue system, and in this one, I want to talk to you about my inventory system. I've built one since the last video, so without further ado, I will talk you through that. If we run the game, you will see that a bag appears in this top corner, and if I press a button, the bag opens and you see that there's nothing inside the bag. Now the bag object has just got two animations, open and closed, but in the finished game I will animate the zip smoothly, open and closed, and there'd be a sound effect as well for a bit of game feel, rather than this sort of just flicking between two things. This background here is a panel sprite, so it retains its rounded corners no matter how big it gets, although it will only be growing on the X axis. It won't be stretching downwards. But when it stretches across, instead of these rounded corners becoming all stretched, they stay nicely rounded as I want them, like this. That's what a panel sprite can do for you. So when the inventory is open, my little guy's platformer behavior is disabled, so he can't jump and run around. But I've also disabled his controls, because sometimes disabling the platform behavior, you could still press left and right and have him flip left and right, or maybe even animate. So I've disabled his controls completely when you're looking in your inventory. Let me just show you what that looks like. It's a simple boolean. That's not it. Here we are. Player movement. It's a simple boolean, a global variable boolean. When dialogue is running or when the inventory is open, I change this to false, so that you can't use left and right buttons or anything. He's completely frozen in place when you've got these interactions happening. Now, as a bit of unrelated, well, kind of related information, when I was in school in the 90s, we all had sports bags like this, and we would put badges and stickers and stuff on them. And so I have this kind of idea about setting this game in the 90s and setting it in England, obviously, because that's the place I know best, because I've spent the longest here. Anyway, so he's got his sort of sports bag, and now, what happens when you collect something? Well, you're not going to be very surprised by what happens when you collect something. But as you will notice, since my last video, the neighbours in this street have become very untidy, and they've chucked out a load of unwanted household items, which is very antisocial. But it's quite helpful for me because I can put some of those things in my bag. So let's grab the dinosaur, and you will now see we have a dinosaur in the bag, which is very exciting. I wish I'd had a dinosaur in my bag in the 90s when I was in school. I could have set it on all the bullies and they would have left me alone. Mind you, not this one. He's herbivorous, so he probably wouldn't have bothered. Maybe a T-Rex could have sorted them out. Anyway, I won't start talking about childhood because I'll be here all day, and you'll all end up very depressed. So let's collect some more items. Here we go. So I've got 3 items now. There you go. Dinosaur books mug. And you'll notice that they're in the order they were collected in rather than an arbitrary order. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's just collect all the items in this scene and go to the next scene. There we go. We've got all 5 items now. And you'll see what I mean about this background expands on the x-axis to be big enough for all these items, and it retains its rounded corners. Now, the way I do that is there's a variable that keeps track of how many items are in the inventory. So it goes up and sometimes it goes down. So depending on how many items are in the inventory. So I look at that number, say 5, and I times the size of this maybe by 100 pixels, so 5 times 100 pixels. And then I add a little bit on the end as well, so it includes enough pixels for this bit here that you can't really see, and this bit of padding here. So it's just a simple expression that does some very simple mathematics. So if we close that And since the last video, I've got a second scene. He can finally travel to somewhere else. He's probably so bored of this street. I think I'm starting to get bored of this street. I need to do so many other locations, but illustration work takes a long time, even when it's a simple style like mine. Anyway, when you're in collision with this door, you can go to the second scene, which, as you can see, is very much a placeholder scene. But I wanted, the only way you can really test an inventory properly is to see if when you go to another scene, have you still got all your objects? So I needed to do that. So yes, we have still got all the objects, and they're still in the correct order as well. Now, if we collect the 2 objects from this scene as well, and actually I haven't talked about the objects yet. The objects that he's collecting are just simple objects with the tween behavior on them, and then I do an opacity tween on them. When he collects them, they fade away and then they're deleted. And then when we go back to the first scene, the game remembers what items you collected, and so it doesn't create them again. So when you're doing an inventory system for your game, you want to test certain things are going to work. And I wanted to be sure that when an item is removed, that the other items move to the left to fill the gap. So I decided the alien was as good as any item to delete, and I've got a trigger event for that. So if we get rid of our alien, put it in the box, and this is just a simple 2-frame object. When he's in collision with it, when he presses a certain button, when you have the alien in your bag, you will be able to drop it in the box. Okay, so now if we open the bag, the alien has gone, but everything to the right of the alien has moved to the left to fill the gap, which is exactly what I wanted, of course. You don't want gaps in your inventory. You don't want the order of the items to sort of get mucked up when something gets removed or added. Back on scene 1, you will notice our alien has reappeared, and that's because when you go into a new scene, the game will check what objects you've collected so far, and it will make decisions about what objects to create on the scene based on what you've got. So since we got rid of our alien, he's reappeared, and we can collect him again, and this time he will appear on the end, on the far end. And this seems like a good time to talk about how I order my items in the order that you collect them in. This is how the item ordering works. I'll just talk you through this with my handy graphical display. So when you pick up an item, the value of this variable, this global variable, changes by 1. Every time you pick up an item in the game, any item and any order, this will just have add 1 as part of the collection event. So when you pick up the dinosaur, for example, or anything, this would become 1. The first item you collect in your game changes to 1. And then this number is passed to this, a structure variable that just records numbers. So dinosaur gets passed the number 1. And then I use this number later on to arrange the inventory. When you open the inventory, these numbers are looked at by the game, and it will arrange them in the order that you've been passing these child variables, and it's as simple as that. It took me ages though to figure it out. I did an inventory earlier in the year, a kind of rougher version of the one we're looking at today. And I couldn't figure out how to have the items arranged in the order they're collected in. So instead, they were arranged in an arbitrary order, which is the order that they're created in the events. And I could give them an order in a different way, but it wasn't the order they were collected in. It was just maybe alphabetical or something, whatever I wanted. But it was a fixed order. I couldn't do it dynamically until now. And I figured this out about a week ago. I was scribbling so many notes about different ways I might be able to do it, and ended up with really simple solution. This number just continues to grow. So if you've got 50 items in your game, this item will be 50 by the end of the game. And if you collected an item after that, the item would be 51. This would be, it would be in this list somewhere, and it would get the item 51. Now, what happened when we deleted our alien before? The alien was number 4 before, so when we deleted the alien and collected him again, this was at 7 already because we'd collected the star, the 7th item. So it became 8 when you collect the alien, which means he ends up, as he should be, on the edge, on the end of the row there. Instead of slotting back in here, he's no longer number 4, he's number 8. So even if you recollect things, it works. If you delete things, it would just rearrange them in ascending order based on the numbers. So, I don't need to worry about aligning my items. I'm talking you through something. I'm not doing graphics. So that's how my inventory ordering works. Really, really simple. I use this number to assign these objects an order number that the game then remembers, and at the beginning of the scene it looks at these, when you open your inventory it looks at these and arranges them accordingly. And that's it for 2022. What a year it's been. Back in January, I wasn't doing game dev stuff at all. I had tried game dev in the past and I'd found it very difficult, with programming and things like Godot. I understood it up to a point, but then I got a bit sort of overwhelmed when the code gets bigger and bigger, and I got so lost. And then I discovered GDevelop, and I've just had a fantastic year. I started back in April. I got my head round the dialogue system, and I built myself a simple inventory, which I've used actually in this video, a sort of improved version of the one I made back in April or May. And then the YouTube channel came along, which has been amazing. I wasn't planning to do a YouTube channel back in January. It's all just sort of happened, really. I got the idea to do a yarn tutorial, a really thorough step-by-step yarn tutorial, because there didn't seem to be one already. And I just got it in my head. This was something I really wanted to do. And so it's gone from there. And I've just had some lovely comments. I've been blown away. It's just been such a surprise to me. If I sort of be really honest for a second, when your self-esteem isn't amazing, and you don't think much of yourself, you don't value your sort of abilities very much, perhaps, when you do something and people really like it, it has meant a hell of a lot to me. It's been incredible. And just doing game dev stuff generally has been amazing for my mental health. But I've had depression all my whole life, back before people were even talking about this stuff very much, back when there was a bit more of a stigma to it. And I still struggle, even now. It's not something you just cure. And I have to say that game development stuff has been incredible for my mental health. It really helps balance my mood. It distracts me from my worries, and it just stimulates my brain in a really useful, really positive way. And interacting with the YouTube stuff and the GDevelop forum, all these things contribute to it just creates this fantastic hobby that I've found so good for me in ways that were unexpected even. So GDevelop was just a real breakthrough for me this year. And back in January, I just couldn't have imagined making little prototypes like this and doing a YouTube channel. It's incredible. I'll just say that thanks very much for your lovely comments this year under my videos. It means so much to me. And thanks for your support. I'm going to carry on doing videos, devlogs, and I've also got some ideas about tutorials that I might do next year. I need to work on some stuff before I do tutorials about them, just to make sure they're possible, and that's as much detail as I'm going to go into right now. But anyway, thank you very much, and have a lovely Christmas and New Year, and I will see you in 2023. Good day to you.